All right, I think we'll begin. Good morning. I'm Sandro Tejada, Director of Major Gifts and the Seton Hall Parents Program. Thank you for joining us to kick off Seton Hall Week in our virtual offering, Back to School with Professional in Residence BJ Schecter. This session is being recorded. We will have an on-demand page and we'll add all our Seton Hall Week recorded sessions to the page. Please kindly mute yourself. And if you have any questions during the session, please use the raise your hand icon on the top right of your screen. Use the chat feature to share your questions or hold your questions until our Q&A session. As you probably know by now, Seton Hall Weekend is Seton Hall Week this year. While this year's event will look much different than it has in past years, we are committed to provide a week-long experience full of engaging virtual offerings for families, alumni, students, and the community. I'm so happy that we have BJ Schecter with us today. He is the editor and publisher at Baseball America and a professional in residence at Seton Hall University, where he is building an interdisciplinary sports media program. He has extensive experience at the highest levels of media, having spent 20 years as a reporter, writer, and editor at Sports Illustrated before leaving the brand in September 2016. His responsibilities included running the magazine's investigative and enterprise unit, managing content and columnists for the website, working closely with editors and writers at the website and magazine to integrate SI and SI.com, overseeing cross-platform projects and managing Sports Illustrated internship program. He was also the creator and the editor of the college football website Campus Rush, which launched in the summer of 2015 and included a student correspondent program at more than 75 universities across the country. As a writer, he covered college football and college basketball. As an editor, he edited college football, college basketball, Major League Baseball, and several special projects, including Crime in College Football, Gangs in Sports, the 50 Most Influential Minorities in Sports, the Great American Sports Atlas, the nation's top high school programs, and more. Prior to Sports Illustrated, Schecter spent 5 years at the Boston Globe, where he was the lead high school writer and also covered colleges. Before that, he spent 3 years at Middlesex News, now the Metro West Daily News. Thank you, BJ, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sandro, and thanks everybody for joining this morning on at least a dreary morning here in the Northeast. I know some of you are from other places, and so it's a pleasure to meet all you guys virtually. Hopefully, we'll have some good conversation throughout this session. A little bit about me, and I came to Seton Hall as Sandro said, to build a sports media program. And if you look at media today, and we're on the heels of a very divisive election, you look at what's going on, not only with the pandemic and how the world has been changing, but media is at the forefront of all of that. And sports is a leader in many different ways. And so there are lots of unique opportunities that we can learn and really drive the conversation. And that's really why I came to Seton Hall, is not only to build a program to help students get into this field as it's changing so rapidly, but to be innovative and to discover new platforms and new ways of presenting content and doing things and driving the conversation and really what's the next wave of media. We don't know. We don't know what the next Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or TikTok or any of these platforms that have emerged in the last 5 to 15 years. But that these new platforms are going to be discovered in sort of innovation labs that we can build here on campuses like ours. And so that's really why I came here. And as Sandro said, I'm still in it. My classes are a little bit different than a typical college class in many ways, because I try to make it as current and as real world as possible. I'll give you a sampling of kind of what we do and what we discuss in Intro to Sports Media, which is the first course in our sports media minor, which we're working towards building it a major, and then hopefully very soon building a sports media institute. It's very important that we do that and really take those next steps. And so we cover a lot of different things in media. So when we talk about media, it's not just content production, although that's part of it. It's in today, to use a baseball term, we're in the middle of the World Series, about to embark on Game 3 of the World Series between the Rays and the Dodgers. You really, in media today, you have to be a 5-tool player. And what that means, in baseball is, you can do it all. You can hit, you can run, you can throw, you have speed, so forth. And in media today, it's you have to first and foremost communicate, and that is in the written word, that is in person or on air, whether it's on radio through podcasts or so forth, or whether it's through the broadcast medium, or not so much television, but on camera. You also have to know what it's like and understand all the stuff that goes on behind the camera. Producing, directing, writing scripts, and so forth, which is much different than writing articles. And so you also have to know the business, right? You have to understand what a business model is. And we are closely connected with our friends at Stillman, the Stillman School of Business, and my counterpart there, Charlie Grantham, who's the director for the Center for Sports Management. And we work very, very closely on the business side. So that's that's really important. And it's also really important to talk about what's going on right here and now, because there's some very, very important discussions, whether it's social justice with Black Lives Matter, whether it's everything that's going on in the pandemic, testing, contact tracing, all we see that. We see that in professional sports. We see that in college sports. College sports has never been bigger, and I have a love for college sports, football and basketball, and college football and college basketball. Yeah, the student athletes are the ones who are playing and driving the competition, but it's really a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and that's changing too. The whole idea of amateurism and name, image, and likeness that started way back with the O'Bannon case, where Ed O'Bannon sued EA Sports. That was quickly settled, and then he said CAA. So there's a lot going on in sports, and we touch on a lot of different areas. And so I'm gonna share my screen, right now, and just give you guys a look at what our syllabus looks like for Intro to Sports Media, and we cover lots of different areas, right? So our objectives are to demonstrate a knowledge in all areas of sports media. That's from the business side to the content side, from teams and leagues and management to everything else in between. It's very important to be able to develop communication and presentation skills, like our students do group presentations where it's essentially a pitch, creating different content. Not this class, Intro to Sports Media, but sports reporting. We prop up a website, and every single assignment that we do, or the students do, is published on a website. So regardless of whatever else they do, they're getting clips. So that could be print, that could be video, that could be podcast. It's all of the above. So it's really important to develop different types of content on different platforms, and so we do that, with our coursework. And just to give you an idea of some of the subject areas that we cover, as you can see, it's current, right? So we start off with what's going on right here and now, with the pandemic and COVID-19, and then we touch on areas for like mobile and print and where that's all moving, how to use social media not only as a way to to promote your own content, but a way to produce content through social stories. Our students do, stories entirely through social media, looking at data and analytics and the business side and television, all of that. College sports, as I just mentioned, very, very, very important and big right now, especially on a campus like ours, when we have a perennial top 25 basketball team and fill regularly the Prudential Center, and it's that the models are changing. And how does that look right here and now in this pandemic, where we're talking about creating bubbles for college athletes, right? And so there's lots of debate and discussion in around that. Marketing and PR, and I'm going to show you, a commercial that is so impactful. You can tell it was done by a journalist, because storytelling is storytelling, whether there's a brand involved or not. It has to be authentic. It has to be organic, and you have to, exhibit all of the same skills that you need, whether you're writing an article or you're producing a television piece for ESPN. So all the skills are the same. Different platforms, the Athletic right now is one of the biggest things in sports media. They've raised nearly $200 million in the last 3.5 years. And that was created in Silicon Valley. What's the next Athletic? What are the new, platforms, businesses, apps? We're getting into all of that. Leagues, teams, schools, here at Seton Hall, so our students produce games, through something called Pirate Sports Network, which is, a terrific enterprise that allows students to not only call games, but to work cameras, to be in a mobile production van, to direct. We just got over in this class talking about sports law and investigative reporting that goes hand in hand, right? We're seeing a lot of that. The New York Times just did an incredible investigative piece where they pieced together tax returns from President Trump. Lots of great investigative work that there's going on every day, and it's important. The media is a watchdog for the public, and investigative reporting is hard. It's time consuming, it's expensive, and not a lot of outlets are able to do it. Not a lot of people are as interested in that. They're interested in their 15 minutes of fame, or on social media, maybe their 90 seconds of fame. Good reporting, rises. It's so important. There's so many, good reporters that do it, and we're exposing them, our students, to these reporters. I have a lot of guests in my class. Every week we have a guest leader in the industry, and just this past Wednesday, as we're talking about investigative reporting, we brought in TJ Quinn of ESPN, and TJ, who spent time here in New York at the New York Daily News before getting hired to ESPN, really, did some breaking work on the Balco case that involved Barry Bonds, the steroid case. He broke the story of the grand jury actually, interviewing Bonds, and he told that story to the class this past week, in addition to doing case studies in real time with our students, and it's such a great gift to our students. So there's a lot of different things that we go over with our students and create opportunities. So I'm going to show you real quick a couple, two quick videos. The first one is from one of our own, John Fanta, who came through Seton Hall, and we didn't even start to develop this program. I can't take credit for John. He did it all on his own. And he's really, at 25, 26 years old, has really carved quite a niche for himself. He works for the Big East Digital Network and Fox Sports. He was doing things for both of those entities while he was a student at Seton Hall. And now he's not just, doing things on social media, web-based. He's actually calling games on Fox Sports for men's and women's basketball, which is a huge, huge deal. While he was at Seton Hall, he developed his reel and his shtick. He's not trying to repeat, anybody. He's not trying to be the next Bob Costas. He's trying to be himself, right? And he's not, the traditional broadcast person. And that's what we're really encouraging, our students to find their voice, to take chances, to put themselves out there. And so here's a quick 3-minute reel of John Fanta and some of the things that he's been able to do. And he really earned his base, here at Seton Hall.
Are you catching Big East Shoot Around today? You gonna watch the show?
What show?
Big East Shoot Around.
Don't know who that is.
Okay, Big East Shoot Around. You gonna watch?
Sorry?
You watching Big East Shoot Around today?
No.
What? Just say yes.
I wasn't listening.
Say I'm gonna watch Big East Shoot Around. You gonna watch it?
Sure I am. Of course.
Fox Sports Go. You got the app?
Okay, no,
3
I don't.
o'clock. You don't have it?
Yeah.
Where you going? He's late for work. Big East Shoot Around. The Big East Tournament gets underway tomorrow at 7 Eastern from Madison Square Garden when St. John's tips it off with Georgetown and Xavier takes on DePaul. The Big East Tournament begins tomorrow only on FS1. DePaul up on Marquette 53-52 in the third quarter in the Big East Women's Basketball Championship game. And I'll tell you what, men's basketball tournament starting tomorrow. A great women's final on FS1 right now. And Lisa Byington, you're on the sidelines for the men's tournament. I'm ready. Are you?
Oh my goodness, and bring that jacket. You please, John Fanta. We're just gonna start calling you Fantastic Fanta.
What do you say when people out there say the Georgetown brand is fading, it's going away?
I don't know. It looks like it's shining bright to me. It looks like it's shining bright to me.
The dog days of February have begun, Jay, as the march to MSG continues. Welcome to Big East Shoot Around. He's Jay Alter. I'm John Fanta from New York City. We've got Seton Hall's Kevin Willard and Kadeen Carrington coming. We've got Barstool Reeks from Barstool Sports as well. Thanks, Bob. Well, Ryan McCullough's path to get back season is special as he was out with right forearm tightness for nearly 2 months. But his journey to St. John's is all that much more incredible. It feels like Christmas morning here at Madison Square Garden in the Big East. It is Big East Media Day, and Shoot Around is live for it at the Mecca. He's Jay Alter. I'm John Fanta. We're so excited to tip off the Big East hoop season. You said to me before we started this that you could be a food critic.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. Do you cook?
I do a little,
Marcus? Does Kyrie cook?
I don't think Kyrie cook. I cook. I cook a lot. Remember
Oh!
the orange chicken I sent you 2 weeks ago?
tried to cook orange chicken. It didn't look as good, but I cook here and there. I know how to make
I
spaghetti.
saw you over the summer. I can't help but say it. On Twitter, you tweeted out 10 camping destinations for folks in California. Where did that come from? Have you camped?
I'm not sure. Was it? Oh, I know. It was Kirby.
Kirby.
It was. Let's see, Kirby Cove.
Okay.
I think it is,
Yeah.
which is in the Bay Area. And I'm not really an expert when it comes to camping. You threw me for a loop there.
So as you can see, Fanta, John Fanta developed, his own voice, right? He's really carved out his own niche, and it's it's just so wonderful, to see. We try to create lots of opportunities here for our students, and an opportunity, can begin in the classroom. I mentioned lots of guests that we bring in on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and so we've done this. I've done this since I've been here, and we've really stepped it up. And so from our own alum Bob Lee, who of course spent the better part of 4 decades at ESPN, and is an alum, and loves to come back and talk to students and give back, and he does, and works directly with students, and I'll come back to that in a second. Two, we had Don Van Natta, an investigative Pulitzer Prize winning journalist at ESPN, Ernie Johnson of TNT, Dominique Foxworth, former NFL player and former head of the NFL Players Association, came. Adrian Wojnarowski, who everybody knows in the NBA as the ultimate newsbreaker. This semester, people inside the NBA bubble. We're going to have later next month. We're going to have Adam Schecter, the fabulous newsbreaker and reporter at ESPN. Seth Markman, who produced the NFL draft and oversees all of NFL and college football content, as well as baseball for ESPN, and really going through how do you produce a virtual draft? Well, he went through it with our students. In addition, we do lots of events. Almost a year ago, we brought Bob Costas to campus, and along with Bob Lee, the two Bobs had just a delightful and enlightening conversation. We packed Bethany Hall, and we got our students involved in many different ways. It was live stream on Pirate Sports Network, so we had students working, the cameras in the control room and et cetera. We had a contest in one of my classes where students were asked to write an essay on the significance of Costas's career, which is vast. And the two best got up on stage and were able to have a conversation with Bob Lee and Bob Costas, which was a wonderful opportunity for them, as well as the two student athletes followed them. And what I'm about to show you now is a piece of work that was produced by one of our students. And so we had like nearly 700 people at this event in Bethany Hall. It was live streamed. It's now on YouTube. You can go check it out if you want. And instead of either myself or Bob Lee, reading off a sheet of paper the vast accomplishments in Bob Costas's career, we decided, wouldn't it be great if we introduced him with a video? And this video was written, produced, and edited by a senior that graduated last year by the name of Keith Egan. And the beauty of it, and he's terrific, and you're going to see it now, it was played on these huge screens. President Nair was there, 700 people were live stream there. We had an audience, an on-demand audience. And Keith worked directly with Bob Lee on this. Bob Lee was the executive producer of this video, and he got to work directly with one of the best journalists, not only in sports, but in all of media. And what a great opportunity, for Keith. And here's what he came up with, which was really, really terrific.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Costas. This is the Larry O'Brien Trophy, named for the late commissioner, emblematic of the championship of the NBA.
With over 40 years of sports broadcasting experience, Bob Costas is the gold standard.
Super Bowl 46 will kick off at Lucas Oil Stadium. Greetings from the edge of the cupola just inside the home stretch here at Churchill Downs. Hello and Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Bob Costas.
Shortly after graduating from the Syracuse University School of Communications in 1972, Costas got his first job on air at the age of 22, calling games for the St. Louis Spirits of the American Basketball Association. 2 years later, Costas made another jump to CBS Sports, where he called football and basketball. In 1980, Costas was hired by NBC, who would become the face of their sports coverage for decades.
Short, open, Chicago with the lead. A pop in the shallow left. The New York Yankees, world champions, team of the decade. The entire NFL Live crew will be here to help us set the stage for the battle between the Bengals and the 49ers.
For NBC, Bob Costas has been a part of 12 Olympic Games and the primetime host for 11, a figure unmatched in American broadcasting.
Look who gets it next. That's the most dynamic figure in sports, a gregarious man, still exuding nobility and stature. This remains an authoritarian state, and with an abysmal human rights record. In the long run, is China's rise irreconcilable with America's interests?
No, in the long run, America better remain engaged with China and understand that we can have a cooperative and constructive yet candid relationship.
Bob Costas has always maintained an honest position and has never let that change over the course of his career. Whether as a host, play-by-play, or journalist, he has always used his position to speak unapologetically on problems that matter.
There is a gun culture in the National Football League. The game is unacceptably brutal. Washington playing Dallas here tonight. It seems like an appropriate time to acknowledge the ongoing controversy about the name Redskins.
Costas has been recognized for his success and consistent model behavior in sports broadcasting, winning 21 Emmys, 8 National Sportscaster of the Year awards, and most recently being inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame.
My primary thoughts tonight are thoughts of gratitude and appreciation for those I've worked for and with, and all the friendships, many of them spanning 4 decades.
Now with the MLB Network covering the sport he loves most, Costas continues to embody intelligent broadcasting, using vivid language and descriptive imagery to convey sports' most impactful moments.
For all of us, boa noite from Brazil.
So as you as you can see, it is a terrific job by Keith. Really impactful video, and what an opportunity for him. I want to pause right here to see if anybody has any questions or comments before I have a little surprise for you guys all. So I'll keep you on the edge of your seats for a little bit. But first, if anybody has any questions, comments, from anything that we've talked about so far. No? Okay. Anything in the chat?
I do have one question. This is Sandro. I know you mentioned starting the sports media program within Seton Hall, but what drove you to decide to go from what you were doing to academia specifically?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. When I was working at Sports Illustrated and I was in New York, I taught some graduate school classes at night and was really invigorated by the energy and the passion of young aspiring journalists, and then looking at where media is today, and I wanted to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I don't profess to have all the answers as to where we're going. In many ways, I have no idea. But can we provide students with a base of knowledge and skills, and together can we build something new or something? So many people have helped me throughout my career that I want to give back, and I want to connect really good students with some of the best in the industry. That's why I bring guests into class, and I tell our students, every person that comes into either the classroom or now virtually or to one of our events, and we're planning a virtual event on November 5th, really discussing sports in the COVID era, is like, it's an opportunity for you to interact and meet and potentially get mentored by some of the best in the business. Now, I'm not gonna push our students to send an email or a thank you note or send some of their stuff to our guests. They're gonna have to take some initiative, but the opportunity is there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I mentioned that I bring a lot of guests into my classes, and so it's very fitting, I think, in this forum that I bring a guest. So I brought one today, and so I would like to introduce you all to the very best in the business. It doesn't get any better. One of our own. Please welcome Bob Lee.
Professor Schecter, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
I'm fine. Listen, I just want to say hello to everyone who's joining us, and I hope you have a meaningful time throughout Seton Hall Week, because it is a special time, and it's a time of challenge, and it's also a time of learning, and that really gets to the heart of. By the way, the video occurred to me as I'm watching the video you're playing that Keith Egan produced last year, and I was so thrilled to work with him. And it came back to me. I hadn't really micromanaged a piece like that, but the importance of where you put a word or how you move a phrase around or just the difference one shot over another will make. Keith just excelled at it. And as you mentioned, it was the cornerstone of the afternoon. It was quite an event over at Bethany Hall. Keith is now working for the NFL, and he's assigned to covering the New York Jets. So, we all have our penance to serve, and he's serving his, but it's a great opportunity for him. And especially when I tell you, it's an opportunity if you're dealing with an organization that's struggling like that, when you excel, and he is excelling, he's shooting video and producing pieces. It's going well. That event last November with Bob Costas, I think, though, encapsulated, and as Professor Schecter mentioned, everything about the school and everything about this particular class, and that it involves students basically at every turn. Had this darn virus been just a month later in arriving, we had actually were about to do a major event on campus back in March with Jamel Hill, and I would have, who's a friend and a former colleague of mine, I would have thirsted to have had that conversation about many of the things that she subsequently has achieved a national platform on. But this particular time right now in sports media, I think, is a great opportunity for those who are studying it. And I think back, Professor Schecter keeps inviting me, and I'm silly enough to come back every term. But thinking of the differences from the spring term back in March, when COVID was just becoming this global and national reality and reshaping our culture and all of our lives, to the summer session, and then to just recently here in the ongoing fall semester, sports media is being reshaped and changed in front of our eyes. And all of these questions were different. You think back to what we were talking about in March, and it almost seems simplistic as leagues and commissioners and those in leadership positions were, beginning to wrestle with how to deal with this. And my message to the students was just like from Watergate, follow the money. It's all about the money, no matter what else. On a micro scale, yes, people are concerned about the safety of college athletes and their employees, et cetera, but the money that's at shape. To what we were talking about in the summertime, as some form and substance took shape to what the college football season would start to look like, and why the lodestar of all of this sports entertainment industry, the National Football League, watch them. Was there ever a doubt that the NFL, for example, was going to attempt to play a full season? And if you saw what they just did yesterday, they moved a game involving the Raiders out of the Sunday night slot this coming week because they've had several, I think 5 or 6 positive COVID tests or exposures. So they're playing chess. And this doesn't involve the Raiders and whoever they're playing on Sunday. I forget who it is, but it involves NBC. And again, it involves the billions of dollars at stake in revenue for the National Football League, because all of this, at the end of the day, is reshaping sports media, how we gather it, what kind of access we will have to athletes. Right now, it's very, very limited access to the people in leadership positions. And you wonder, when all of this, for example, is settled and some sort of normality returns, are we still going to be interviewing people after games via Zoom? I mean, our locker rooms forever closed. Are we going to miss those opportunities around the batting cage or at the shoot-around to talk to people, develop relationships, and move on from there? But as Professor Schecter mentioned, some of the people that we've been able to invite to class, I mean, when you have a chance to have a 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner like Don Van Natta explain how you begin to research and report a piece on Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, arguably the most powerful owner in sports. It's either he or Bob Kraft. When you have Dominic Foxworth, who not just played 6 years in the National Football League as a defensive back, but was the chief operating officer of the Players Union, a man, by the way, also was with a master's in business administration from Harvard, explain all the implications of player contracts and player safety involved with his own personal experience as well. I think our students really have an opportunity to get to, what I think is the most important question, which is the why things are happening. And I have just been thrilled with the opportunities I've had to work with some of the students in just editing some copy or answering questions. And the questions are so smart. They're so on point. And I think that the opportunities that come from the introduction class and from the other classes in the curriculum are just magnificent, because the curriculum is changing because the field is changing, and it's changing hour by hour. And because we're able to stay current and invite people in and have an instructor such as BJ, who is just so well versed in this, it's a living laboratory. And our students, I think, are so fortunate. And the best of them, I think, are just thriving because they see opportunities being created. The field that they want to enter is changing, and as they're studying it, they're seeing all the tumblers change in front of them day by day, week by week.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Bob. And you get asked to speak all over the country, and have been to, whether it's Arizona State, which in my mind is the leader, or over at University of Maryland, where they have the Povich Center, and certainly lots of resources there, but. You and I talk all the time about building an institute here, and you look at, 9 miles from New York City. You look at, this part of the East Coast, and I think for this group, you see the opportunity, not just because you're an alum, but it's right there before us.
I think, and we've seen this with the internship program that's university-wide at Seton Hall, but specifically in the area of communications, the blessing of geography, the proximity to New York. Even though, as we've discovered in the last 7 or 8 months, technology has rendered geography somewhat irrelevant, but it still does matter. But because of, I think, of the rigor that we put into this, I think there's an opportunity here to put down roots here and again, study this, because it's not just sport, it's sports, it's business, it's law, it's medicine, it's culture, it's race. I mean, our nation has never seen such a confluence of the pandemic and an economic meltdown and a racial awakening all at once. And all of this is visited most prominently, I would think, on a daily or weekly basis in sports. I mean, what brought COVID most readily home to America back in March, when people were saying, is this thing really a big deal? Well, there were 2 events, and they occurred on the same day. Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson tested positive for COVID when they were in Australia, and everybody, oh my gosh. And that same night, after Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz tested positive, one of the, and Adam Silver, who has spoken at the university, was in April, I think, a year and a half ago. Yep. Professor Grantham arranged that. And Adam, who is acknowledged, I think, as a leading thinker in American society, not just in sports, that same day stepped in, we're suspending the NBA season. And that was like a holy bleep moment, like, wow, this is serious. And it was through the lens of sports that most Americans were brought up short. And it's through the lens of sports when you watch the NBA with Black Lives Matter on the court, with the messages and the names on the sneakers and on the shirts. And the questions, is this proper for the league? I mean, there is a robust debate to be had about all of these things. And again, it happens through sports. And our students have the opportunity to consider what's happening, when it's happening, how it's happening, and most importantly to me, why it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. And at that same event that Bob referenced, that Adam Silver came, Stephen A. Smith also came as well. And Bob interviewed him on stage. And
I listened to him a lot. I asked a few questions.
Right. But it was packed. If you could see how he connected with the students. And oh, by the way, we ended up breaking some news because Bob asked Stephen A. a question, about his how much he got paid, not specifically. And Stephen A. went on this big rant on how he deserved every penny. Well,
and he does, by the way.
He does. Yes, he works extremely hard. The very next day, word came out that he had a contract of nearly $10 million a year.
Well, that event made some news with Stephen, and that became a viral and a global piece of tape. And also Bob Costas, the event we did with Bob back last year, got a pretty solid pickup in the business sports business media. His thoughts on his departure from NBC and just the landscape. And again, this is what we have to offer. And this is, I think, we're in a growth stage now for this. And I'm just excited of what we can do in the future.
Well, great. All right. Yeah, I'd like to open up, for questions either for Bob or for myself. I see a hand up. So, Tara, you're up first.
Good morning. Happy Seton Hall week.
Hi.
So I was an undergrad journalism major way back when. It was, mostly print journalism, no social media content, none of what our students today at Seton Hall are working with. And I've been fascinated to see how in the last few days, the Joe Buck and Troy Aikman hot mic has exploded and then been clarified. So I'm curious what the program does to help our young men and women understand how to, I don't even know if a balance can be struck with the speed with which content needs to be put out, but at the same time, the due diligence to have the fullness of the story. Is that a part of the curriculum? Is that part of that ethical obligation to really have the full facts in putting forward a story on whatever platform or in whatever medium it might be promulgated? I'd love to hear both of your thoughts.
I mean, it's funny, Tara, you had mentioned that, because I think a lot of that comes, I think, under the umbrella of ethics, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And just 2 days ago, when TJ Quinn was in, he got into a very eloquent and touching story about dealing with the families of I think a deceased youngster in a story. And I mean, we've all had these experiences as working journalists, but TJ's description was, it basically comes under the mantra of do the right thing. And when you do hard news, people get hurt, feelings get hurt, and you have a duty to work with people, but your duty is to the truth. And what you've touched on is it's been the driving question of the digital revolution in news, which is, speed versus accuracy and fairness. And I think it's baked into anything I talk about, and I think Professor Schecter would agree. I think it's baked into anything that it's in the curriculum. Is that you got to get it right, and you got to be fair about it, because at the end of the day, the digital revolution gives you speed, but it also gives you work product that lives forever on the internet. You'll have to answer for it.
Yeah, and I would echo everything that Bob said. And about a month or two ago, we had another incident with Cincinnati Reds broadcaster Tom Brenneman, where he made a very unfortunate remark, a slur that got a lot of attention. And so there are a couple of different things that we talk to students about, and one is about the ethical obligations in reporting. And it's not just in reporting, it's we're teaching people, whether you're a reporter or not, like, it's how you should carry yourself as a person. It translates into every aspect of your life. And so, like, really fairly getting to the story, producing the full picture, the context, and which is so important. We were talking in investigative reporting about a Wall Street Journal piece that wasn't sports related, but it didn't. You didn't get the full sense of the person who was charged with a very serious crime and ended up killing himself. So there's that. There's also, hey, look, from whether you're broadcasting a game and you don't know if a mic is on or it's hot, or you're tweeting something, or you're making an off comment on social media, what you say or what you write or put out there matters. It's a part of the public record. So be very careful on what you say and what you do, because whether it's taken into context or not, whether you're coming from the other side, whether you're on air, and Bob's had lots of experience where you're having a just a banter back and forth on air, and now it's captured. So you have to be very, very careful. So it's teaching both sides of that, I think.
Professor Schecter, I see a question here from wonderful freshman Karen Nagel. And he asks, he's a freshman currently and was wondering if this intro to sports media class was an option for his sophomore year.
Yes, absolutely. I've had freshmen in my classes, and what I'll say is the way it works at Seton Hall is when you're upperclassmen, you get first dibs to register for classes. And it fills up quick. My classes fill up really, really quickly. But yes, absolutely. I'm encouraging, people from my college or the registrar's office to, increase the cap, the number of people that can be in classes. But yeah, no, it's absolutely available. There's no prerequisite to it. If you want to be a sports media, a minor, and then pretty soon a major, it's one of the core classes. Other questions? Anybody have anything else? Well,
PJ, I have another question for you. This is Sandro. You touched a little bit about the collaboration with Professor Grantham at the sports management at Stillman. Can you share a little bit more about what you envision that relationship or collaboration in regards to providing a holistic approach about sports?
Yeah, I mean, so from both sides, from here at the College of Communication and the Arts, it's really, really important for students to understand business, and certainly the business of sports, and what a business model is, what's a business plan, what is ROI, what is a burn rate, what is monetization of content or a product, because I think in media today, one of the big reasons why we are where we are, you think about what happened to newspapers. Newspapers gave away their content once the internet was a thing. Magazines followed suit. So if you were the Wall Street Journal and from day one you have a hard paywall, which means you want to view anything online that's the Journal, you're paying, and that's been that way from the start. The New York Times is messed with kind of a metered model, and it's changed a little bit now. But it's because people that come up through editorial, the content side, and then get into management and are on the business side, which happened to me and everything. I'm very interested, in business. I've always studied it, but a lot of people that I know that are put into these management positions where 85% of your day is business, don't have the background or the skills to do it, right? Then from the flip side, if somebody wants to, go more on the business, the marketing side, the more COO, CFO, they have to understand communication and content. So it goes both ways. And so what we're trying to do is working with Stillman to, sports management right now is a major. We're trying to offer that as a minor to our students in the College of Communication and the Arts, because right now in Stillman, you can minor in sports media. And so as we build out, this major, and then ultimately this institute, business is a huge core part of it. Stillman runs the Seton Hall Sports Poll, which, as we look forward into this new media landscape that we've been talking about, there's lots of opportunity. We've seen, Quinnipiac, what they've done with their polling, not sports, but more in the political realm. There's a great opportunity for us to do that in sports. So Stillman is really, really important. They've been great partners. Our big symposiums that we have, every spring, we co-partner, all our events. And so Charlie, Professor Grantham is a good friend. He's done it at the highest level. He's still, in it, as a writer, as a commentator. So it's really, really important to have a deep collaboration, and more than a collaboration, it's a partnership. And so that's what we've been doing. And from Dean Strauser, to Associate Dean Lorenz at Stillman, they've been not only great partners, but great advocates of what we're building here. And that's really, really important to have that interdisciplinary aspect, because it's not just about the content and communication in the arts where we're housed, it's the entire university, because we really believe we could build something special here that, can be a shining light for the university.
Thank you. We're a couple other questions in the chat. Suzette Vital asks, would you recommend holding off on the class until there is more in-person learning, as it sounds like a very hands-on class?
I would say no, because I think the beauty of what we've been able to do, in this virtual world is adapt and bring in more guests, with all this interaction. And I think as, we've learned so many valuable lessons in this virtual world that will carry on past this pandemic when you get at it. out of it. So I would argue that, this certainly intro to sports media, sports reporting, which is going to be offered in the spring, is every bit as good, as the in-person class. Yeah, I wish it was in person, but, TJ Quinn was just here, and for the students to be able to interact with somebody of that caliber, or Adam Schecter in a couple of weeks, or Grant Wall, who covers soccer, or Jeff Benedict, who came 2 weeks ago, who has a New York Times best-selling book on the dynasty of the Patriots. So it's I think they're great opportunities, and I think we now have a greater opportunity to get even more guests, because people are even more available. As before, we had a few Skype guests, but most of them were in person. So, of course I'm biased, but I think this class is every bit as good as it's ever been.
I'll just add, I've had the opportunity, in one of Professor Schecter's classes, to one of his students produced some extra credit work, and which came up on the spur of the moment. Something came up when I was speaking. What was it, last month? And you say, hey, everyone wants to. It was on the eve of the National Football League season. Yeah. I said, I'd love to see a good cultural piece of what this game means to people, after having been through as a country and as a culture for 6 months, living under the blankets, as it were. And here comes the National Football League back. And Professor Schecter said, well, yeah, if anybody wants to write that for extra credit, and one particular student did, sent it to me, and it was good. But I edited it up. I kind of blue penciled it and said, this would be good, and here are a couple of ideas that could, to think about. There's no right way to write a piece. But the point was, we had this dialogue. And, I don't live near South Orange, so it wasn't going to happen on campus on most occasions anyway. And it was good. He got something, and I had a great experience working with this young man.
Thank you. And this question might be for you, Bob and BJ. And you touched a little bit upon this. What is your recommendation for students approaching internships with the COVID situation?
Well, I mean, it gets down to, how do you approach life with COVID? I mean, my blanket thought to anyone has always been, and I think any speaker that has been a party to any of these classes, the advice to any young people is, do as many different things as you can. Increase your value. Become that 5-tool player that BJ talked about. I don't think any responsible organization offering internships is going to be offering them and placing interns in a situation that would be dangerous. And that's a question that gets to every day. You ask yourself, I mean, do I want to wear my hair this long? Not necessarily, but I don't want to go every 4 weeks and get my hair cut. So we're all making these decisions, but think aggressively and act strategically. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I mean, I would add, the opportunities are there. You just have to go find them, and it doesn't, you have to get creative. It doesn't mean you're necessarily in an editing bay at ESPN or in an office in New York City. There's a certain sense of responsibility that you're going to have to convince a hiring manager. But I just went through this with a university that has a co-op program, and at Baseball America they said, would you be open to having students, apply and work virtually? And the short answer is yes. So, it takes that special type of student. You might, in many cases, it might have to be for credit and not for pay, especially given, where we are economically, especially in media. And, you just have to be willing to do it, do the work, offer to do things, do anything, that would help an organization. And so, if you can do that to get your foot in the door, even if it's not the most exciting work, and, you prove your worth, then, you become valuable. And, I think, either cheap or free labor, and, right now is very, very valuable, especially with, with someone, who is enthusiastic, aggressive, and kind of willing to do anything at any time to help out.
But there are laws. In fact, there's been some retrenchment, I think, in federal labor laws about internships, but it's to the favor of interns.
Absolutely.
Well, Professor Schecter, and thank you, Bob Lee, for joining this wonderful call. We really appreciate you sharing your insight and your talents with our Seton Hall community and kicking off Seton Hall Week. We're so excited for these virtual offerings, especially our back to school classes for our parents, alumni, and students, just so they can get a taste of what our students are learning on a day-to-day, if it's virtual, if it's in person. So thank you both so much for participating, and thank you everyone for attending this session. I just want to remind you that, again, Seton Hall Week is a week. There's 36 different virtual offerings. So please check our schedule of events at our website, and we look forward to seeing you virtually in the next week. Thank you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and go Pirates.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, Sandra, I couldn't add any comments today because it said I was out of the program, but it was very enjoyable. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank you,
welcome.
BJ
I'm sorry
Schecter.
about that.
That's okay. I kept getting kicked out too, so. But it was very interesting. Thanks, BJ Schecter.
No problem. Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Take care.